Lorries broken down right on the slip road to the M6, causing long queues back to junction 2, the old Brew-Dudley exit. Of course, further south in Bedfordshire on the M1, one lane's closed northbound junction 10 to 11 near Luton and Dunstable, following a crash on the Surrey stretch of the M25. The outside lane's closed anti-clockwise just after the M23 interchange. They're recovering a van that's broken down long tailbanks to 8 at Reigate. And in Essex, the A130 is shut between North Benfleet and South Benfleet, just off the A13, following a two-vehicle crash. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Imagine getting the call to tell you that you've won £50,000 in tax-free cash, our biggest cash prize of the year.
Oh my God.
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God. This is amazing.
Oh, it's shocked. That is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co. Coming up tonight, another deal done, ladies and gents, this time with Germany to try and stop illegal migration. So will this be it then? Have we finally cracked it? Will this be the one? You tell me if you're optimistic or not. And do you remember in May this year, it saw what some described as a watershed moment for the Labour Party. Others called it a tectonic shift in British politics. What am I talking about? A public letter signed by 120-odd business bosses stating that Labour was the party for British business. How many of those business bosses do you think stand by that public endorsement today? And billionaire and political donor Nick Candy, he's switched his support and his wallet from the Tories to Reform UK. Your thoughts on that? And first cousin marriages, they have been debated in Parliament today. A simple question for you. Should they be legally banned in Britain or not? And keeping me company tonight, my panel, the academic and journalist Tom Buick and the former Conservative MEP, Dame Jacqueline Foster. But before we get stuck in, let's cross live for the 6 o'clock news headlines.
Good evening, I'm Sophia Wenzer with your headlines from the GB Newsroom. The UK and Germany have reached a landmark deal to tackle migrant smuggling. Germany has agreed to tighten laws, making it easier to prosecute smugglers behind small boat crossings to the UK. The deal also focuses on intelligence sharing and removing smuggling content from social media to disrupt criminal networks. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper, speaking at a meeting with European leaders this morning, said the agreement will strengthen border security and save lives.
Gangs have been getting away with it for far too long. That's why today's meeting is so important. In recent weeks, we have already seen the important impact of a collaboration across our countries, the significant arrest of a major suspect involved in smuggling engines and boats, involving collaboration between the Netherlands, Belgium and the UK, the series of arrests that have taken place across Germany with the French-led operations in the last week.
Now, independent MP Iqbal Mohammed has spoken out against a proposed ban on first cousin marriages in the UK, calling the move unnecessary and unenforceable. Speaking in the Commons, Mr Mohammed acknowledged the health risks, but stressed the need for a cultural shift, not legislation, to address the issue. He did condemn forced marriages and virginity testing, highlighting the need to protect women's rights. However, the MP for Dewsbury and Batley argues that banning first cousin marriages would not solve the problem. In other news, billionaire Nick Candy has pledged a 7-figure donation to Reform UK after announcing he'll become the party's new treasurer in the new year. The property tycoon, who resigned from the Conservative Party over what he called too many broken promises, will now help raise funds ahead of May's local elections. Speaking to our political editor, Chris Hope, Candy confirmed his commitment, calling reform the future of British politics.
My only job here is I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I helped raise funds for the Tory party. I'm now helping Reform doing it. I think we will break records of that, not because I'm so great at doing it. I believe people want that change. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think Reform UK will be the party in government in 2029 and Nigel Farage will be the Prime Minister of this country.
And former England rugby player Tom Voice is believed to have died after going into a river in his car in Northumberland. Northumbria police said it received a report on Sunday the 43-year-old had not returned home following an evening with his friends. It is believed he attempted to cross Aberwick Ford in his car, which was then pulled along with the current of the River Alne. Police have since recovered the car, but officers have not found Mr Voice, and it is believed he was carried away while attempting to escape and died. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Michelle.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you very much for that. My name is Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company till 7 o'clock tonight. Alongside me, my panel, the academic and journalist Tom Buick and former Conservative MEP Baroness Jacqueline Foster. Good evening to both of you. You're welcome.
Good evening.
I'm going to start calling you instead the best dressed female panellist. Doesn't she always look smart?
Oh, she's impeccable. Absolutely.
Always look smart. And whenever you're on this programme, I always get comments talking about how well presented and glamorous you are. If we're still allowed to say that in this day and age, ladies and gents, are we? But take the compliments.
I do, thank you very much.
Very glamorous, isn't she? She makes, every time I know that you're on, I think, oh God, am I all right? Am I up to standard or not? Anyway, look, it's not just about us three. It's about you guys at home as well. What's on your mind tonight? There's so much we need to discuss, ladies and gents. I want to talk Labour. Are they still the party of British business? Speaking of business, Nick Candy, you've just been hearing about that in the headlines there. What do you make to this then, him switching to Reform UK first cousin marriage? That's been debated in Parliament. What do you think to that? Should it be made illegal in this country? Get in touch, gbviews@gbnews.com. The email gbnews.com/yoursay is how you get in touch on the website, and you can tweet or X me. But look, top story tonight, the UK and Germany, then we've reached a landmark deal to tackle migrant smuggling. I've got to say, we've been talking about doing deals, haven't we, for quite some time, but these two countries have pledged to share intelligence and expertise against these gangs. Look, let's just cut to the chase. We keep talking about, Keir Starmer talks about, you know, cracking the gangs and the smugglers and so on. Is this the deal that's going to make it happen, Jacqueline?
I think regrettably not. I'm open to any improvements that they can make in terms of cooperation. But the problem that you have, Germany has said that it's going to actually just strengthen its laws to actually criminalise gangs. The difficulty with all of this is there are literally hundreds or thousands of gangs across Europe. And if we look at the borders of Germany, for example, the illegal immigrants are not leaving from the borders of Germany in terms of crossing the Channel. They come around and come through, and there are no borders. Because they're part of Schengen. So I think it'll be a challenge. I think what's actually a concern is we've actually paid £500 million to France to try and stop the boat, certainly, from that angle. But the problem is there. I mean, I think post the election, they actually stopped a couple of boats for a couple of days, which we know that they can do it, but they still refuse to do it. So those boats set off and everyone is in peril. And I don't see it changing that much. There is good cooperation. We did it when we were in government, and look how difficult it was then.
So when this was announced today, and I'm reading the press release from this, essentially, it says, so this is the government's press release, securing our borders is a foundation of the government's plan for change, and this is the latest step to restore order to the asylum system and deliver on working people's priorities. Help me understand, if securing borders is a foundation of this plan for change, why isn't it one of the 5 targets then that's in this plan for change?
Well, it should be, but
why isn't
importantly, well, I'll come on to that in just a moment, because you asked the question as well, will this stop the boats?
Yeah.
And I think any fair-minded person will look at this and say a single initiative, as welcome as it is today, will not in itself stop the boats. That said, we're 6 months into this government. I think already, and I've said this before on this show, Yvette Cooper as Home Secretary is demonstrating that she's up for doing the hard yards. And we've seen that in terms of, over 10,000 illegal migrants have been put on charter flights and been sent back to whence they came. That's a massive increase on what the previous government was doing. And on the point about whether it's 5 priorities, 7 milestones, all the other sort of technocratic nonsense that we did see last week with that speech by Keir Starmer, what I think is really important about what Yvette Cooper is doing is what I've said on this show on many occasions is opening up this important statecraft, this relationship with our European colleagues, whether it's the upstream issues to do with the criminal gangs, whether it's eventually, I hope, doing a deal with France to actually stop this vile trade across the Channel by having a returns agreement. But that will come at a price as part of the reset with the European Union that gets underway in the new year. And that will be, for example, around processing some of these claims and accepting some of these claims onto our shores. Personally, when you've seen 70 people have lost their lives across the Channel in the last 12 months, that is a preferable system to the one we've got at the moment, which is about profiting from human misery.
Can I just
bring
a point, because I did raise it in the House of Lords when they announced that there were over 9,000 people that they had deported back to source. We're still waiting for a reply to where these people were sent back to, so we have no idea of the numbers and which countries.
Sure.
And what the irony is about this, all of the times that we were trying to deport people, the amount of human rights lawyers that seemed to appear at the 11th hour to drag people off flights. For some reason, they seem to have gone quiet. Now, that's a good thing, because people should be deported. Yeah. But I have to say, we, as I said, I raised this point in the House of Lords, and I am waiting to see who they were and where they were sent back to, and we still haven't got a reply yet.
Sure. Well, as you know, as a member of the House of Lords...
Do you know the answer to that?
Well, I don't. And Jackie, as a member of the House of Lords, of course, uniquely has that right to ask the executive and the government those questions, and there's a time-bound period in which they need to come back with those figures. But I'll come back to actually what happened under your government.
No, but hold on one sec. Just on this point. So you was the one that introduced the fact that you've had these deportations. So you've done that as a tick in the box. It's a good thing. But by your own admission then, if no one knows who these people are and to where they've gone, how can you be so sure that it's actually happened?
Well, I can only go on, the government has put the figure out there.
Can I just add something which may be helpful? Because during this discussion, the government minister also talked about the liaising with countries like Zimbabwe and Iraq. And then one of the questions I did ask was, I'm waiting for the answer, does Iraq still have the death penalty? Because clearly the criteria for sending anybody back anywhere is that these countries do not have that. I still haven't got an answer from that either. So it'd be fascinating when they decide to come back and, you know, share the information with us.
With respect, Jackie, I mean, and that's obviously some of the minutiae around this.
But it's
really
very important.
It is important, but you know, we shouldn't forget the big picture. And prior to the election, we had a gimmick in the Rwanda scheme that cost £700 million.
I don't agree, you see.
A year. We sent 4 volunteers back, which, by the way, you know, the Public Accounts Committee in its report has concluded that it cost £150,000
But the Rwanda scheme
volunteer.
was due to be in place in July. We called the election. I'm not, you know.
Well, if it was such a deterrent, why didn't you wait till after the election?
No,
I mean,
but the question has to be when other countries were actually talking about sending their illegal immigrants to Rwanda. Why was it then that Keir Starmer comes in and without a buy or leave, he didn't even ring the Rwandan authorities, who are allies of ours, and just basically cancelled the entire thing?
Well, because, you know, Labour
and then he's having a chat. Then they're having a chat with Iraq and various other countries.
Yeah, because it's the point
that do have a real horrendous record on human rights.
Indeed, and we're still liable to international law. We're in the European Convention on Human Rights. That's a controversial issue, I know, in your party. But I come back to this issue about statecraft, because in the end, we're only going to end this human trafficking that's been going on across the Schengen zone and some of them across the Channel into the UK with international agreement. Macron could do us a favour, I think, by agreeing to a returns agreement. He's not exactly in the best possible place at the moment.
But this was my point. There has been statecraft. We've given France £500 million over the last few years.
Yeah, and what have we got in return for that? This is what I'm saying.
No, but this is the whole point. The thing is, because the agreement has been reached, we didn't just give them the money without discussions. So the French authorities themselves have obviously assured the government at the time, we will really now try and step in and stop some of this, but they've not done it.
So my connection to statecraft is that we've got a renegotiation with the European Union coming up.
Well,
they want to continue preferential access to our fishing grounds. They're after a youth mobility agreement. Good luck with that, given the recent net migration figures. But nevertheless, you know, there's something there in the art of statecraft to trade with our European colleagues. And I think, as a minimum, because there's a moral responsibility here to end this vile trade across the Channel, we can do that tomorrow by ensuring that anyone who gets in a dinghy and is launched from the Pas-de-Calais ends straight back in the Pas-de-Calais. That would be a good start, but it's going to come at a price, and it will come at the price of
Can I just come in on this statecraft? I spent 15 years as a member of the European Parliament. I know how they breathe, I know how they work, and I've got very good friends who are still members of the European Parliament who are still there. And everybody's got their own agenda. And nobody can tell me, even when we were being lambasted because we then chose to, the majority of people in this country chose to leave. At the end of the day, there have been relationships. The relationships have continued. And then, of course, it depends who's head of the Commission, etc., etc. But you will find that, yes, I want the new government to do well on this, but the way that they're going about it, these announcements, they're making all of these announcements, as Michelle said. Keir Starmer came forward with this massive speech the other day, and he didn't. It wasn't one of their priorities. So, you know, let's see what happens, shall we?
I think more has been achieved in 6 months than the previous 6 years.
Oh, I don't think so. Not at all.
What? You think more has been? I thought the figures.
What's been achieved?
People crossing the Channel had gone up.
It has, but look at the numbers that have gone on charter flights back to where they came from.
I like you, you're a nice man. But how can you say with a straight face that when you see that the number of crossings has gone up, how can you say, and I noticed you slotted it in there just as I'm going to a break, and I do need to go to a break, so I will go to a break if you're desperate to hear the adverts. But I just don't understand how I can say with a straight face that there's been more achieved in 6 months than 6 years. And I'm not saying that you lot did a great job, because I think you did an absolute shocker as well. I agree. But I think everyone's appalling. I don't think anyone's got a grip of this. I think it's absolutely appalling. And when you look at the likes of why Reform UK are rising and getting such momentum, and we'll look at some of those guys after the break a bit later on, then this is your answer, ladies and gents. Adrian says, Michelle, you can remove one smuggling gang, but it'll just be replaced by another. This whole industry is just too lucrative. Rich says, Michelle, I'm sick and tired of hearing about deals with other countries. The border of the United Kingdom is the responsibility of the United Kingdom. He says it's a harsh fact, but Michelle, borders are secured by force, not by agreements. That's Rich. That's his opinion. What do you make to it? Do you agree or disagree? We'll continue the conversation about the Labour Party after the break. How many of the 120-odd business leaders that proudly backed Labour before the election still do so today? What do you think that figure is? I'll see you in 2.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Donna Ida, who joins us now. And Donna, you look spectacular in your gorgeous denim jumpsuit.
Thank you.
And accessories. And it's important, isn't it, sometimes, just to keep things simple?
I always keep things simple. I travel a lot, I work long hours, and I don't want to think too much about what I'm wearing. So for me, one and done is perfect. Good accessories, fresh hair, nice makeup, and you can go anywhere, including GB News when you didn't know what was happening.
There we go.
Perfect.
Welcome.
Straight off the plane.
Can we ask you some of our top denim questions?
Yes.
Because Stephen Dixon, the presenter of The Breakfast Show who's just on, said that double denim to him is an absolute no-go.
Oh, what does
Is that true?
Don't have him on again, darling.
OK.
It's
We're telling me
I
stacked.
love double denim.
Really?
I love it. I think it is so cool.
Does it have to be a different
I was going to say double denim, same colour.
Or same
I
tones?
like the... For me, I actually do like the same. Think Saint Laurent 70s. There's an amazing one that we're doing that's going to look great on you in the new season. The Joan Jean, we've got the City Slicker shirt. Oh, it's amazing. If it's done well, it's perfect. And I like it in a paler blue, but a good mid to dark. Very chic.
Yeah, you go.
No, I was just thinking, little old me, not quite sure
You look amazing,
what to wear
innit?
this morning. How
was a
do
bit
guys
stressed.
pull off denim?
For me, if I was dressing you, I would have put you in a pair of jeans this morning with his amazing jumper. Gorgeous watch.
Black, blue?
Black denim, I do like. Men don't like it so much. Men like charcoal denim.
Oh, I don't like grey.
Charcoal. I love grey, and the best seller for men is charcoal denim.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, Michelle Dewberry, and I'm with you till 7 o'clock tonight. Baroness Jacqueline Foster and Tom Buick remain alongside me. Some of you are saying, Michelle, you've got to stop the pull factors into the country, and that is one of the ways that you will essentially smash these gangs, because you will remove the demand. Did you see that story in the papers a few days ago about that beautiful, beautiful hotel that's now been signed over to asylum seekers? You look at the imagery of that hotel that's been used previously for things like weddings. It's better than so many people's homes. I don't want to do your home down, ladies and gents, but when you look at some of the facilities in that hotel, I mean, really? Who wouldn't want to risk life and limb in some cases to try and get a life there? Anyway, look, let's talk, shall we? Continuing about the Labour Party. When it comes to business, do you remember back in May? It all feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? Back in May this year, some said it was a very seismic watershed moment for the Labour Party. They'd been doing a lot of courting of British business leaders, and they very proudly announced this open letter where they had 120-odd business leaders. They said that the Labour Party was the party of change, the party for British business. Well, City AM, which, you know, as this title would suggest, is a City publication, tried to track down all of these 120-odd business leaders to see whether or not, Tom Buick, they still supported the Labour government. In case you don't know the number at home, let me tell you, just 28 of those original backers reiterated their support for Labour. So that's just 28 of them were still willing to go on the record and say, yes, it's the party for me. What's gone on?
Well, there are 5.5 million private businesses in this country, so 120 sounds a lot, but it's not exactly a huge number. And I'm old enough to remember, because I worked for the Labour Party at the time in the late 1990s, of Gordon Brown's famous prawn cocktail offensive. I mean, there's nothing new about parties looking to shimmy up to
this is the 120 that Labour actively promoted.
As they do
were
at
very
every
proud
election.
of this.
Yeah, I mean, there's the thing called Labour for Business. There's always been a strong relationship. But the bottom line is here, Michelle, is that, and it's the clues in the title, Labour is the party of working people. Working people depend on the wealth creators, on businesses. And when I talk about wealth creators, I talk about those in our public services who help support society so that wealth can be created. But look, I mean, it's not surprising 6 months in, after a very, very difficult budget. And as you know, when I come on this show, I don't come on as a spokesperson for the Labour government or for the Labour Party. I'm not even a member of the Labour Party anymore. I do feel that this is, in part, a whole of the party's own making, that it went into the general election saying no raises in income tax, no raises in VAT, no raises in corporation tax. Three, as it just so happens, the biggest revenue earners for the Exchequer. So it's got itself, frankly, into a hole where it's had to then tinker around the edges of the tax take. And not surprisingly, it's upset a lot of businesses who, frankly, see, for example, the national insurance changes as a tax on jobs. And as the OBR itself has found, a minimum, 50,000 working people will lose their jobs as a result of that. Now, that's just bad fiscal management and bad politics on behalf of the Labour Party. They should have gone into the last election far more truthful, in my view, about the state of the government finances, and that would have potentially included those three headline taxes that would have needed changing. So this is why, business is in the situation it's in, because of that decision.
Yeah, but then you would think then, so if you've made this decision where you box yourself into a corner, where, as you say, you box yourself into the corner, you've ruled out these three major levers to pull, you might learn from that going forward. But I remember not long after this budget, Rachel Reeves was addressing businesses and she was asked, will we ever see taxes like this on businesses again? She categorically said, no, we won't do this again in terms of taxing businesses. She then was asked about that in subsequent interviews, saying, so can you cast iron guarantee that you won't do that again? And then she was fumbling around, realising, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have made that commitment. So I can't really get my head around why you don't learn, not you, but why people in politics don't seem to learn from mistakes. What do you make to this, Jacqueline?
Well, Labour Party are not the party of working people at all. They're maybe the party now of the public sector. The public sector makes up about, I think, 6 million jobs, roughly. And of course, then they go for the private sector again. I mean, about 83% of businesses in this country, the engine room of this country, are the small and medium-sized businesses. And we've even had complaints from some of the very, very big businesses because of that on-cost with the national insurance, employers' national insurance contribution, along with the minimum wage, which has just sort of bounced on everybody, is extremely significant. I'm surprised they've got anybody supporting them, frankly, because what people also don't know, it's not just normal private businesses as we see them that are going to be affected by this. But if you have institutions or businesses, they're not businesses really, hospices, for example. The hospices have been affected by the rise in national insurance contributions. Certain charities that are extremely important. So, what they have done is not surprising because we have a cabinet and there are a lot of people in a cabinet and not one person who is in the cabinet has ever run a business. So I'm not in the least surprised. And really, when they then tried to pretend that it was only NI for the employees that they weren't going to touch, I mean, this was smoke and mirrors throughout the entire election campaign. It was smoke and mirrors, we knew exactly. We weren't. I've been in politics long enough to know if somebody says we're not going to raise NI, it's supposed to mean all of NI. So there was that then. And then, of course, tomorrow we've got the farmers coming back to town with the tractors, and look what they've done to them. So why should they have any support?
But you not think, Jackie, we've had successive governments under Labour and Conservatives, and actually I think some of this gimmickry, I should say, started under Gordon Brown. You remember we had the 10p rate of income tax, and then that changed, and then we've had obviously freezing of the thresholds again. You know, as if the electorate is duped, you know, into the idea that my income tax isn't going up because the politician has decided to freeze the allowances rather than put up the headline rate of tax. And then in more recent years we have with the Tories and the triple lock on the pensions, and now we've got into Labour ruling out tax rises in the 3 biggest earners that the Exchequer has at its disposal. So you get into this gimmickry and tinkering, frankly, at the edges, and not surprisingly, when you do that, whether it's winter fuel allowance, whether it's the agricultural tax relief, whether it's the tax on jobs, which is what effectively national insurance raises are, whether they're on the employee or the employer's
side. Yeah, but can we just come to let's just look at the difference. We were in government for 14 years. We spent you know, $500 billion with
tripled the national debt
with COVID, and obviously Ukraine and fuel prices and subsidising people, and that's a fact. We had to do that. They've had 14 years to practice, and the first people that they hit are pensioners on a winter fuel allowance, which actually raises about $1.5 billion for the Treasury. I mean, and the farmers, it's about $500 million.
Well, you guys at home, I know, feel very strongly about what Tom describes as tinkering. Speaking of tinkering as well, have you seen the latest spending review announced today? That's now trying to take 5% off the budget. It's not a huge amount of money, is it? Do you think that we're bold enough in our ambitions? And speaking of boldness, a man that is very bold, the billionaire Nick Candy, he used to give a £1 or £2, putting it mildly, to the Tories. He's now decided to switch his attention, his passions and his wallet to Reform UK. What do you make to that?
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office. Here on GB News, the fog thickening up in places overnight and slow to clear across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular tomorrow. Elsewhere, much of England and Wales is dry and cloudy. High pressure is keeping things that way. Not many big changes with the weather, but the wind's still coming in from the northeast, still feeding in a few showers across southeast England overnight. Elsewhere, as I said, most places dry, bit of drizzly rain heading into Shetland, but it's the fog thickening up across southwest Scotland and the west of Northern Ireland that could cause some problems. Freezing fog as temperatures fall well below freezing. We could see negative double digits through some sheltered glens across Scotland. That fog, particularly in and around Glasgow and across the west of Northern Ireland, may stick around for all of tomorrow. Certainly a dull, damp and drizzly start across Shetland, but actually some of the highest temperatures here to begin the day. We could be -9, -10 through some of the sheltered glens across Scotland. A cold start for Northern Ireland. That fog, particularly in the west, again, stubborn and slow to clear. And this cloud is pretty stubborn across England and Wales. Maybe some breaks in the cloud across northwest Wales, the far northwest of England. So chance of a bit of sunshine here and there, but mostly just staying cloudy, but largely dry. It's in the far south where we'll continue just to see a few showers and still a fairly brisk and chilly wind. Elsewhere, the wind's pretty light, generally a bit lighter than today. Temperatures still touch below average, 6 or 7 Celsius for most. Sunnier skies for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but temperatures here only 4 or 5 at best. And again, where that fog sticks, we're not going to get above freezing. Some of that fog thickening up again Wednesday night into Thursday morning. So again, that could be slow to clear on Thursday. Thicker cloud across these eastern and central parts of England on Thursday. Some drizzly rain is likely here, so quite dank. And again, not feeling very warm with temperatures, for the most part, single digits.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Ratner. Long delays continue heading north up the top stretch of the M5, so obviously through the West Midlands. Now, the link road from the M5 onto the northbound M6 is partly blocked where a lorry's broken down, causing long tailbacks to junction 2, the Oldbury and Dudley exit. On the M1 in Bedfordshire, one lane's closed southbound from junction 11A to 11 near Dunstable and Luton, following a crash on the Hertfordshire stretch of the M25. The outside lane shut anti-clockwise just after 25 of the A10. A lorry's broken down, long queues back into Essex to 26 of Waltham Abbey, not being helped by the roadworks on that stretch, of course. On the Kent stretch, the anti-clockwise exit partly blocked to junction 3 at the M20, where a car's broken down. And on the M3 in Hampshire, the southbound exit to the westbound M27 is partly blocked to junction 14. Emergency repair works are underway after a lorry caught fire. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry. If you're just joining me tonight, alongside with the academic and journalist Tom Buick and the former Conservative MEP Baroness Jacqueline Foster. Oh, if you've just joined us, you've missed us setting the world to rights. We want to look earlier on at the programme at Labour. What is their relationship now with British business, and also that deal that we did with Germany? Many of you getting in touch about that one. You don't have a lot of optimism that deal will be the one that actually fixes the problems, but many of you think that it is a step in the right direction. Let's speak directions then, shall we? Because the billionaire Nick Candy, you'll all be familiar with him. He, of course, was a big advocate for the Tory party, a big donor to the Tory party as well. Well, he is now defected to the Reform UK party. Let's just take a listen to him speaking to Nigel Farage earlier today.
My only job here is I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I helped raise funds for the Tory party. I'm now helping Reform doing it. I think we will break records of that, not because I'm so great at doing it. I believe people want that change. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think Reform UK will be the party in government in 2029 and Nigel Farage will be the Prime Minister of this country.
Oh, interesting stuff. Nigel Farage as well. He was busy tweeting. I'll show you his tweets now. So he was basically saying that they're building the political future, essentially, on Twitter today. Elon Musk, he then got involved, asking when is the next political opportunity, essentially. Nigel Farage wrote back to Elon Musk saying, essentially, in May this year, when you've got those local council elections. Nick Candy as well, he said that he's been speaking to Elon Musk this morning, as it happens. I mean, are you gutted that you've lost this donor and advocate for your party, Jacqueline?
Yes, I am. I am gutted when we lose any donor and any supporter or somebody crosses the floor, but I'm not surprised because clearly we've gone through some huge turmoil and we're having to now rebuild our own party following the election. I do understand that Nick actually supported the Labour Party for the election that's just gone, which is obviously his choice, and now he's moved to Reform. We also have the question, don't we, about, billionaires funding parties as well.
What's your position on that? Are you thinking
I have no issue. I welcome any billionaire or millionaire that would like to donate. Clearly, there are very strict rules how you can donate in the United Kingdom, and you do have to be, it has to come from the United Kingdom. We can't have foreign money coming through, and that's whether it's members or whether it's donors who inevitably become members. What we don't have, both the Conservatives and Reform, is we don't have a pot like the Labour Party, who normally achieve around 23 to 25 million a year from the trade unions. And that's where they've always had a good chunk of funding, which is absolutely fine. And then they will raise, from business or members. So,
but momentum's going away from you. Or that's what it feels like at the moment, doesn't it?
I think it's early days yet. As we said, we've won about... we've had some by-elections, council by-elections, in the last 2 or 3 months, and we have won about 20 seats back. So May is going to be very interesting because you've got some of the big county councils that are going to be up for election as well. And... So, people do have a choice, and what they need to remember is that it's one thing to campaign and be a great campaigner. And I was in the European Parliament with Nigel for all of those years. It's a very different thing to be in government. I mean, to be in government, you need at least about 110 members of Parliament because they are the government position. So you've got to, and you've got to then you've got to get a majority to win. And equally, you've got to really get a good base in the council elections. So we have to start rebuilding, getting our councillors back, and then building the base.
So you're still optimistic about the Tories' future?
I am, yeah.
Tom?
To paraphrase a rather good former Tory Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, I think this is not the end of the beginning. This is really the beginning of the end for the Conservative Party, because talk about, Michelle, revenge is a dish best served cold. You've got to look at this in terms of this psychodrama between Richard Tice, Nigel Farage, the upper echelons of the Reform Party as it is now, and indeed, you know, the people that have joined or defected in recent months. This goes all the way back to the 2019 general election, when Nigel stood down in 317 constituencies, frankly, to deliver Boris Johnson's whacking majority. And the Tories gave Nigel absolutely nothing in return for that. In fact, they sort of danced on his grave. And
not all of them.
And what he's managed to do since, following that election, and obviously following the Conservatives' massive defeat in their history just a few months ago, is he's regrouped, obviously, with, you know, a club of billionaires. And I agree with you, Jackie, you know, we don't want state funding of political parties.
No.
I think anyone who's eligible, whether it's at the individual trade union level or indeed if you're a registered business, you're a bona fide business. All these donations, by the way, are registered on the Electoral Commission. You can go and see them online. So as long as there's transparency, I don't frankly care where the money's come from, as long as it's legal and it is registered. But I think at a minimum, Labour suffered from this in the 1980s with the defection of the STP and then the divide on the left. This is an existential crisis for the Conservative Party, because they either go into the 2028, 2029 general election with this massive division, this revolt on the right, which essentially lets Labour win another Loveless landslide, or, which is what I think Richard Tice, Zia Youssef and Nigel's plan is to, with their ground game, with the investment that's going in by people like Nick Candy and others, to actually replace the Conservative Party as the party on the right, which will have a sort of Thatcherite 2.0 political party that believes in a small state, controlling mass migration, small economy, small state, and sorting out the NHS with the kind of reforms that Elon Musk has been touting across the pond with this government of efficiency, whatever he calls it, the Doge, Department of Government Efficiency. That is how the narrative is shaping up on the right of British politics. And where is Kemi Badenoch? She's nowhere.
No, but
that is a good point. Where is she?
Well, she's been elected as the leader of the party. So
to do what? And to say what?
No. Where we're not naive is, this was, I mean, there's a lot of us who are still in the Conservative Party who are not moving anywhere, who are Thatcherite Conservatives. We are small state, low tax, etc. And we were the first ones that were also trying to... I believe that the party was drifting with our policies too, notwithstanding the pressures with COVID and those other things, having to really start, putting a lot of money back into the public purse. But... there are still a lot of us in the Tory party, and we are Tories, and we weren't that happy. I mean, I was a great supporter of fracking, of shale gas. I want energy security in this country. And we were just starting to sort of win the argument towards that. And then we had some other changes in government, and then that was all reversed again. Obviously, the opposition vehemently opposed anything like that. So where you are right is... Nigel, I remember saying to him, 20-odd years ago, because UKIP were around, I fought the 92 election as a candidate and the 97. And I was saying then, get your tanks off my lawn, because, I am a Conservative and this is where we are. What they've been able to do is pick up, really, the Conservative policies, because we lost sight of them, in my view, and we have drifted in too many areas to the left. And I want to see... Kemi is the right person, in my view, and hopefully we'll start developing the policies. You can't just develop them on the hoof because somebody wants you to say something. She's already said she will reverse the tax on farmers. She's already said she'd reintroduce the winter fuel lines. There's just a couple of things. But what she has said, and I agree with, is don't make policy up on the hoof. We have got time now, because we're in opposition for a period of time, to get together and make sure that we've got the central office being sorted out, make sure we've got the right candidates again, make sure we start building the roots back up in local authorities, and hopefully retrieve the ground that Reform have managed to take from us.
Yeah, I get that, Jackie, and I'm no doubt at all, that you're one of those hard-working, decent, traditional Tories. But I'm reminded, something an old boss said to me once. He said, Tom, don't tell me what you're going to do, show me what you can do and what you're going to do. And the problem for the modern Tory party, and this is the same for Kemi, actually, I've got a lot of time for, actually, personally, as a communicator and someone that is slightly actually out of the mould of the sort of robotic politicians that we've got used to in Westminster of all parties in recent years. because she was part of a government that doubled the national debt, that saw post-Brexit, having promised in several manifestos that we'd get control of our borders, this open borders experiment, thanks to Boris Johnson and the points-based immigration system, and productivity in the public services is in the toilet. So, you know, the electorate looks at that and says, well, we hear what you're saying, but we don't believe that you're capable of delivering. And, you know, because it's a greenfield site now for this, as I say, Thatcherite 2.0 reform party on the right of British politics, Nigel, with his track record, with his name recognition and all the rest of it, has got a pitch now, not just to say what he's going to do, but potentially the British electorate putting their trust in him to deliver on it.
Benny, he's been in touch and says, Michelle, what you're seeing now is a drip, drip, drip of people switching from the Tories to Reform. You're saying that this drip is going to turn into a monumental flood the nearer it gets to the next general election. Bill in Suffolk, he says, I can't help but feel, Michelle, that Reform are going to wipe out the Labour Party as we know it today before they wipe out the Conservative Party. George says, Michelle, it feels wrong to me that the more money you have available, the more likely you are to get into government. Isn't this just reflective of a broken system? Ken, you speak about broken systems. You're saying you can have all the money in the world, but if we have what we had last time, which is essentially one party with many, many votes but hardly any seats versus another party with not as many votes but monumentally more seats, and the system is not fair. He's arguing for massive political reform. And Johnny, you've made me sad. You're listening to the conversation today. You heard Tom say that Labour are the party for the working people. You say you're a working person and you're sitting there watching Dewbs and Co with a blanket, really cold and no heating on. How, he asked, his government the party for the working people? Look, coming up after the break. You know, honestly, I'm not saying this. I read all of your emails that you send to me. I can't manage to read them all out on air, but I do try and read them all. And I know so many of you do. You're sitting, you've got your blankets on, you've got your hot water bottles on, and it is so cold at the moment. So I do really hope that you are all keeping safe and warm. And also, as well, Patrick Christie's, he, on his programme, raised a small fortune to help people that are struggling at the moment. So do take a look at that as well, because I know there's money available for people that do need help, and there's no shame in asking for help. But look, coming up after the break, now we've got a Tory MP calling for a ban on first cousin marriages. We've got another MP there saying we should keep them exactly as they are. So is it time to make these illegal or not? You tell me.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
This is Miss Universe fans hailing the end of wokeness and crediting the Trump effect after a biological woman, there's still some of them around apparently, has won the 2024 crown. She's Miss Denmark, because obviously the last decade, you know, it's just been obese transgender smurfs from Papua New Guinea. They're the only people allowed to win any beauty contest, you know what I mean? You're not allowed to have any.
Some of the trans women have won these. You definitely wouldn't say no.
Honestly, I've seen but I've seen some of them that didn't, and some that were clearly just there out of
have there been more than one trans woman? I didn't realise this.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've got a chart at home. This one isn't trans. Victoria Kjær Thielvig, 21 of Denmark. Everything about that description says attractive.
Nazis. Okay, yeah. I have seen pictures of her. She is very attractive.
Yes.
She is.
Yes.
I don't know exactly how to put it, but she is kind of not retro or vintage or so. She's quite an old-fashioned notion of beauty, just absolutely ice blue eyes.
No penis.
Absolutely extraordinary, clear skin and gorgeous blonde hair. I mean, it's absolutely kind of mid-70s.
Well, apparently the sanity's returned to the beauty pageant industry, so they can get back to sexualising 4-year-olds and promoting anorexia like they used to. So
there is that.
She will earn an estimated $250,000 annual salary working full-time as Miss Universe, and will live in a luxurious New York City apartment as she carries out her duties, which involve glass coffee tables and rich Saudi businessmen.
Glass coffee tables. And visiting other planets and solar systems and constellations, I would imagine, of Miss Universe.
Being concerned about animals.
Yes, absolutely, and wanting to bring about world peace. I miss those days.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
But
hi there, Michelle Dewberry, keeping you company till 7 o'clock tonight. Baroness Jacqueline Foster and Tom Buick remain alongside me. That comment that Tom made about the Labour Party being the party of the working people has really got all of you guys going. One of you is asking, how can you be the party of working people when you're hitting businesses, which ultimately will lead to a loss of jobs? That's a question many of you are asking that tonight. Nigel, you've been in touch as well. You're saying, Michelle, you're referencing people sitting freezing cold in their house. Yesterday, you were highlighting that we've shoved a quick £11 million extra over to Syria. He's asking, how can anyone argue that finding all this money for foreign and international issues is better than prioritising the people here that are struggling? Look, there was an issue raised in the House of Commons today that caught my eyes. Let's take a listen, shall we? This is the Tory MP for Basildon and Billericay, Richard Holden. Listen.
Members across the House may wonder why first cousin marriage is not already illegal, because as early as the middle of the 5th century in England, the Church practised the Roman doctrine on first cousin marriage, which was clarified by the first Archbishop of Canterbury in the early 8th century in a letter from Pope Gregory I. The letter cited Leviticus 18:6, in which he said, "Sacred law forbade a man to uncover his nakedness of that of his near kin."
I mean, I've got to say, there's been quite a passionate debate. One of the responses to this that has raised a lot of eyebrows, shall we say, is the independent MP for Dewsbury and Batley, Iqbal Mohammed. Let's see what he had to say in response.
It is extremely common in the Middle East and in South Asia. The reason the practice is so common is that ordinary people see family intermarriage overall as something that is very positive, something that helps build family bonds and helps put families on a more secure financial foothold.
All right. Oh. Jacqueline, I'm getting groans all around everybody. Who wants to go first? What are you groaning about, Tom Buick?
Well, you know, I was just furious when I read this story. That it was, frankly, we're even discussing it on the programme tonight, because let's be clear for your viewers and listeners. Here is the former chair of the Conservative Party, this time last year, who went on the chicken run in order to find himself a safe seat. His constituents that he represents in Basildon and Billericay, by a majority of just 20, and he decides to use that parliamentary time. And, you know, a lot of MPs been recently elected would die for that kind of parliamentary time to put an issue of importance to their constituents.
I'm going to have to step in.
And he chooses this issue, which, you know, I mean, going back to Pope Gregory, yes, it was a case before the Reformation, because we were a Catholic country. It wasn't lawful to marry your first cousin. Since Henry VIII, it has been technically lawful, although there'll be a lot of Christians in this country, Michelle, who do not practice that. And actually, I do think this independent MP, Iqbal Mohammed, was very balanced, actually, in what he said in the chamber earlier on, pointing out that even in the Middle East, where this is practiced, people often take genetic tests because there are health risks associated with it. But seriously, are you telling me that for the constituents of Basildon and Billericay, this is high up there on the doorstep,
well, it's got a lot
listed priority?
The reason that we're talking about it tonight,
I can see that.
The reason that we're talking about it tonight is because it really has generated a huge reaction on all different perspectives.
But why?
Well, because
can I come in? First of all, let's see. an MP, happens to be one of ours, has put this forward as a private member's bill. It's been accepted and they'll come forward. It will not be law, whatever the outcome. But the point about this, it isn't just about that. We can say in parts of the world there will be certain cultural practices that people practice. In this case, we're talking about first cousin marriages. That's fine in other parts of the world. This is the United Kingdom. We still have strict laws in place when we come to, for example, bigamy, because the whole point about bigamy is that you have a spouse and you are responsible for your spouse and then probably your children or possibly your children. We now have a situation where we are a multicultural country to a degree, but there is one section of our country who are practising first cousin marriages, and some of the consequences of this is the number of disabilities in the children who are the offspring of the parents. In addition to that, we are also accepting, which has basically gone under the wire, and it has been around for a long time, we have people in this country, men, who have 4 wives. Now, under the law in this country, you can only have 1 wife, but because they are accepting Sharia as a go-to, we are then in a position as well where we have then 4 different households. Often they are still first cousins. There are people that are brought into abroad. So we have a combination of issues now that surround this. I do not believe it's acceptable. I think it should have been tackled a long, long time ago. And as I said, not just from a cultural point of view, but because of the consequences. And we know there are dire consequences. And the thing is, people will not talk about them. This has been an opportunity to raise that. People have had an opportunity in Parliament to disagree or agree, which is fine. But as far as I'm concerned, we have UK law and it's there for a good reason. It is there for the protection of the child. And while this continues, this is not going to get any better.
But my point is, and I do think absolutely you make some very, very important points. As I say, there are communities that do not practice this in the United Kingdom, whether it's outlawed or not. But my point is, why is a Tory politician, given what we were talking about in the last segment, about how far off the Conservative Party is with the day-to-day concerns, it seems, with most British voters, why is he stirring the culture wars pot and frankly engaging in dog whistle politics? Because actually what this is really about is going after the Muslim community,
You're doing
isn't it?
whataboutery. With the greatest respect, I mean, it could have been a different MP and we could have had the same conversation. An MP has decided to raise this issue. It's entirely up to him. It's irrelevant that he did it as an individual member of Parliament. I am raising some serious issues that surround this, and this is actually what we need to be focusing on, because for the first time, they're now in the public domain and they're now being discussed.
I actually know somebody that is married to his first cousin, and they do have children as well. One of my viewers, Susie, says, Michelle, why is anyone making this whole issue about religion, whatever religion it is? It's surely to do with preventing children being born with physical and mental disabilities. That, she says, should always be our priority. But look, interesting conversation. You two, thank you very much. Thank you to each and every one of you at home. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow night.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office. Here on GB News, the fog thickening up in places overnight and slow to clear across parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular tomorrow. Elsewhere, much of England and Wales is dry and cloudy. High pressure is keeping things that way. Not many big changes with the weather, but the wind's still coming in from the northeast, still feeding in a few showers across southeast England overnight. Elsewhere, as I said, most places dry, bit of drizzly rain heading into Shetland, but it's the fog thickening up across southwest Scotland and the west of Northern Ireland that could cause some problems. Freezing fog as temperatures fall well below freezing. We could see negative double digits through some sheltered glens across Scotland. That fog, particularly in and around Glasgow and across the west of Northern Ireland, may stick around for all of tomorrow. Certainly a dull, damp and drizzly start across Shetland, but actually some of the highest temperatures here to begin the day. We could be -9, -10 through some of the sheltered glens across Scotland. A cold start for Northern Ireland. That fog, particularly in the west again, stubborn and slow to clear. And this cloud is pretty stubborn across England and Wales. Maybe some breaks in the cloud across northwest Wales, the far northwest of England. So chance of a bit of sunshine here and there, but mostly just staying cloudy. But largely dry. It's in the far south where we'll continue just to see a few showers and still a fairly brisk and chilly wind. Elsewhere, the wind's pretty light, generally a bit lighter than today. Temperatures still touch below average, 6 or 7 Celsius for most. Sunnier skies for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but temperatures here only 4 or 5 at best. And again, where that fog sticks, we're not going to get above freezing. Some of that fog thickening up again Wednesday night into Thursday morning. So again, that could be slow to clear on Thursday. Thicker cloud across these eastern and central parts of England on Thursday. Some drizzly rain is likely here, so quite dank. And again, not feeling very warm with temperatures, for the most part, single digits.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good evening, I'm Johnny Ratner. Long delays on the M6 in Staffordshire do continue heading south from junction 13 to 12. Everyone's been funnelled into the 2 outside lanes past the scene of those emergency repair works heading south of Stafford towards the A5 after a lorry broke down. Meanwhile, on the M1 in Bedfordshire, there are queues both ways, junction 10 to 11A. There's been an accident on the northbound carriageway blocking off the inside lane, but a car also broke down earlier on the opposite side of the carriageway, not helping matters. The Hertfordshire stretch of the M25 has the outside lane closed clockwise, junction 23 to 24, that's the A1M round to Potter's Bar, following an accident. And in East London, the North Circular is partly blocked eastbound just after the Crooked Billet interchange in Walthamstow, where a car's broken down, with long queues back past the A10 and the other way back towards the M11 due to onlookers. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
It's our festive treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest ever Great British giveaway. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements? Or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe. Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.